My friends, I have spent a lifetime studying the causes of both success and failure. I have interviewed thousands of the most accomplished men and women, and I have also studied those whose lives fell into ruin. And I must tell you, the years between 30 and 40 are often the most decisive of all. These years determine whether you rise into your true power or sink into mediocrity. I will reveal to you 7 costly mistakes that, if left unchecked, will destroy your 30s and 40s. But I will also show you how to avoid them and how to replace failure habits with success habits. Mistake 1, drifting without purpose. The greatest tragedy of men and women in their 30s is that they continue to drift, waiting for life to hand them meaning instead of choosing their purpose. I have met countless individuals at this stage of life who mistake activity for achievement. They wake up each morning, they go to work, they keep themselves busy, but deep inside, they are merely drifting. They are like ships without a compass, moving with the tides of circumstance instead of steering toward a definite port of their own choosing. And let me remind you, no wind, no matter how favorable, will ever benefit the ship that has no destination. Too many people in their 30s and 40s cling to careers they do not love, staying in jobs that drain their energy because they fear stepping into the unknown. They chase titles, paychecks, and approval, but not passion, not purpose. Their days become a repetition of yesterday, and their dreams quietly wither away. I have seen men working tirelessly in professions they despised, convincing themselves that security is worth the sacrifice of their spirit. But security without fulfillment is nothing more than a gilded cage. The same tragedy unfolds in relationships without vision. Men and women stay in partnerships not because of love, but because of comfort, habit, or fear of loneliness. They confuse companionship with growth, and in doing so, they rob themselves of the deep, transformative power that a true partnership can bring. A relationship without shared purpose, without growth, becomes a burden rather than a blessing. And yet so many drift along, hoping that time itself will transform what only courage and decisiveness can. The truth is this: purpose is never handed to you by fate. Purpose must be claimed, chosen, and pursued with intention. When you drift, you allow life to dictate your direction. But when you choose a definite purpose, when you align your work, your relationships, and your habits toward that end, you harness a power that transforms not only your years, but your destiny. Mistake 2, ignoring the mastermind principle. By the time you reach 30, you should know without a shadow of a doubt that success is never built alone. Yet what astonishes me most is how many men and women continue to live as if they must carry the weight of the world on their own shoulders. They isolate themselves, convinced that asking for help is weakness, or that sharing ideas will somehow diminish their own power. In truth, this is not strength, it is blindness. The greatest builders of fortunes, the pioneers of industries, and the leaders of nations all understood one principle that cannot be violated. No man ever rises to great heights without the combined efforts of others. I coined this principle the mastermind, and it is one of the greatest discoveries of my lifetime. The mastermind is not merely friendship or casual cooperation. It is a deliberate alliance of minds, united in harmony, working toward a definite purpose. One mind, no matter how brilliant, has its limits. But when you surround yourself with minds greater than your own, minds that challenge you, refine you, and support you, you tap into a source of power that is nearly inexhaustible. This, my friends, is the secret reservoir from which greatness is drawn. Look at history, and you will see this truth. Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men of his age, openly admitted that his fortune was the result of surrounding himself with men who were wiser than he was in their own fields. He was not ashamed of this fact. He gloried in it. Henry Ford, often remembered as a genius of industry, was not a solitary thinker. He was supported by a circle of brilliant minds who helped him perfect his vision. Even Thomas Edison, the great inventor, relied on a laboratory filled with bright assistants who transformed his ideas into reality. These men were not lone wolves. They were leaders of masterminds. And yet, how many people in their 30s and 40s refuse to learn this lesson? They struggle in silence, guarding their ideas out of fear, or surrounding themselves only with people who echo their thoughts instead of challenging them to grow. They remain stuck in mediocrity because they have never learned to multiply their strength by joining forces with others. They mistake independence for isolation, not realizing that the strongest oak tree still grows in a forest, not in a barren desert. I say this to you with urgency. By the time you reach 30, you must deliberately build your mastermind. Seek out men and women who are more skilled, more knowledgeable, and more visionary than yourself. Do not fear being the least intelligent in the room. Fear being the smartest. For if you are the smartest in every circle, then your circle is too small and your growth will always be stunted. The power of the mastermind is the power of multiplication. Where one mind falters, two can prevail. Where one man's vision is narrow, a group's vision is vast. Together you form an intelligence that no individual could ever achieve alone. Understand this truth, and you will never again be limited by your own experience or wisdom. Ignore it, and you will remain confined to the small world of your own making. The greatest mistake you can make in your 30s and 40s is to walk alone, when the keys to extraordinary success are found in walking together. Mistake 3, living beyond your means. I have witnessed countless men earn more money than they ever dared to imagine, only to watch it slip through their fingers like water. They buy luxuries before they build security. They chase every fleeting desire instead of anchoring themselves in a plan. And in the end, they remain just as poor in spirit and often in pocket as the man who never earned more than a modest wage. Let me be clear. Wealth is not measured by the size of your paycheck. True wealth is measured by how much you keep, how wisely you grow it, and how effectively you multiply it into a fortune that endures. Money, you see, is a slippery companion. It will not stay with the careless, and it despises the undisciplined. A man who has not mastered himself cannot hope to master his wealth. Discipline is the silent guard at the door of prosperity. Without it, every dollar you earn will find its way into someone else's pocket through unnecessary spending, poor investments, or indulgences that give temporary pleasure but no lasting reward. Discipline transforms money from a fleeting gain into a permanent foundation. But discipline alone is not enough. It must be paired with organized planning. Organized planning is the difference between a dream and a destiny. It is the blueprint that tells your money where to go, rather than leaving you to wonder where it went. Consider the builder of a great cathedral. He does not begin construction by scattering bricks at random, hoping they will somehow form a masterpiece. No, he follows a detailed design, a vision brought into order. So it must be with your wealth. a plan for saving, a plan for investing, a plan for creating streams of income that flow even when you sleep. Without such a design, you will find yourself rebuilding your financial house over and over, each time from ruins. The truth is this: organized planning requires courage. It requires you to delay gratification, to turn away from the thrill of wasteful spending, and to focus instead on long-term gain. The man who spends every dollar on indulgence is applauded in the moment, but forgotten when the money is gone. The man who disciplines himself, who builds a plan and sticks to it with unwavering resolve, may be ridiculed for his restraint, but he will be remembered for his fortune. Wealth has never been a matter of luck, my friends. It is a matter of controlled habits, disciplined choices, and carefully organized plans. If you would be wealthy in your 30s and 40s, do not ask yourself merely how much you earn. Ask yourself instead, how much do I keep? How well do I manage it? And how diligently am I multiplying it? For in the answer to these questions lies the difference between poverty disguised in riches and a fortune that lasts for generations. Mistake 4. Neglecting personal growth. In your 30s and 40s, many men and women make the fatal mistake of becoming complacent. They believe the degrees they earned, the job titles they hold, or the modest success they've achieved are enough to carry them through the rest of life. And so they stop learning, they stop reading, they stop stretching the limits of their own minds. They grow comfortable in routine, lulled into thinking that the knowledge they already possess will be sufficient for tomorrow's challenges. But let me tell you this truth: the very moment you cease to grow, you begin to decay. Life does not stand still. You are either moving forward or falling behind. There is no middle ground. I have sat with men who once brimmed with potential, men who showed brilliance in their youth, but somewhere along the way, they convinced themselves that the journey of learning was finished. They stopped asking questions. They stopped testing their ideas against the world, and little by little, their minds grew dull, their creativity dried up, and their ambitions withered. They had not failed because of lack of opportunity, but because of a lack of persistence and growth. The mind, like the body, must be exercised daily, or it will atrophy. Just as muscles weaken without training, the mind too becomes sluggish without study and self-discipline. That is why I insist, with every ounce of conviction, on daily study. Read books that challenge you. Seek wisdom from those who have traveled farther than you. Write down your thoughts, examine your own beliefs, and persistently refine them. The man who devotes even 15 minutes a day to the mastery of a single subject will, within a few years, rise head and shoulders above his peers. Yet most will not commit to this simple practice, and therein lies the tragedy. Self-mastery is another key. For what use is knowledge if the mind is scattered, if habits are uncontrolled, if discipline is absent? Knowledge must be organized, directed, and applied with persistence. A man in his 30s or 40s who has not learned to master his own thoughts is like a sailor who has no command of his ship. He drifts wherever the winds of life may take him. But the one who sharpens his mind daily, who persists in study, and who disciplines himself to keep moving forward, builds a vessel strong enough to weather any storm. Persistence, my friends, is the bridge between knowledge and achievement. It is not enough to study for a week or a month and then return to idleness. Growth is a lifelong endeavor. If you cultivate persistence, if you commit yourself to daily improvement, no matter how small, you will find that in your 40s you are sharper, wiser, and stronger than you were at 30. Without it, you will discover that the best of your life is already behind you. Remember this: a mind that stops growing is already preparing for its own burial. Do not let complacency rob you of your prime years. Feed your mind as you would feed your body. Master yourself as you would master a craft. Persist, persist, persist. For in persistence lies the secret to staying alive, not just in body, but in spirit and in purpose. Mistake 5, sacrificing health for ambition. You cannot build empires on weak foundations. I tell you this with absolute certainty. Your body is your greatest tool, the one instrument through which every idea, every ambition, and every dream must pass before it can be made real. Yet, in the rush for success, countless men and women treat their health as an afterthought. They burn the midnight oil, chasing deals and deadlines, sacrificing sleep as if exhaustion were a badge of honor. They eat poorly, filling their bodies with what is fast and convenient instead of what is nourishing. They ignore the whispers of stress until those whispers become roars that break the body down. And by the time they reach their 40s, their health collapses, sometimes suddenly, sometimes gradually, but always at the exact moment when they most need strength to carry them through their prime years. Think about it. What use is a great fortune if you do not have the vitality to enjoy it? What joy is there in building a career only to spend your later years trapped in hospitals, burdened by pills, or robbed of energy? The truth is this: wealth without health is poverty in disguise. I have seen men accumulate riches only to lose them all to medical bills. I have seen leaders with brilliant minds unable to act upon their ideas because their bodies were too weak to follow their commands. A man's greatest empire begins within, and it cannot be built upon a foundation of fatigue and neglect. Balance is the key. Discipline is the door. Success demands long hours, yes, but it also demands wisdom to know when to rest. A mind that does not sleep will soon betray its owner with poor judgment and clouded thinking. A body that is not cared for with proper food will eventually slow, no matter how strong the will. True discipline is not only rising early to work, it is also having the self-respect to protect your health as fiercely as you protect your ambitions. Self-discipline, when applied to the care of your body, becomes a secret weapon. It teaches you to say no to indulgences that drain your energy, to choose exercise over idleness, to guard your peace of mind from unnecessary stress. Success is not just about how hard you can push. It is about how long you can endure. And endurance comes only from balance. A sharp mind requires a healthy body. A resilient spirit requires peace of mind. Neglect one, and all three will crumble. The greatest empire you can build is yourself. Only when you are strong in body, steady in mind, and disciplined in spirit can you truly lead, create, and conquer. If you wish to rule your outer world, you must first master your inner world. Do not wait until your 40s to learn this lesson, for by then, many discover that their strongest years have already been weakened by carelessness. Protect your health as you protect your dreams, for one cannot exist without the other. Mistake 6, ignoring relationships. Success without harmony in the home, success without meaningful love or friendships is no success at all. I have walked among men who conquered industries, who built towers of wealth, and achieved titles that made the world applaud. Yet when the applause faded, and when the noise of the marketplace grew silent, they returned home to houses that were cold, loveless, and filled with emptiness. What good is a mansion if it is only a monument to loneliness? What good is victory in the outside world if your inner world is in ruins? I have seen men who gave every ounce of energy to their work, building empires brick by brick, only to discover at the end that they had no one with whom to share it. They sacrificed love for ambition, traded companionship for contracts, and chose power over loyalty. And when the end came, whether the end of a career, the end of health, or the end of life itself, they realized too late that money cannot embrace you, trophies cannot speak to you, and achievements cannot sit by your side when you are weary. Harmony in the home is not a luxury. It is the foundation of lasting success. A man or woman who has love in their life, who has loyalty in their friendships, who has the positive influence of family and community, possesses a reservoir of strength that no market crash, no failure, no disappointment can ever take away. Love multiplies your courage. Loyalty doubles your resilience. Companionship gives you the clarity to endure storms without breaking. And friendship, true friendship, reminds you that you are never alone on your journey. I tell you this, the happiest and most successful individuals I have ever known were not those who had the most wealth or recognition. They were those who had both inner riches and outer riches, those who achieved balance between ambition and affection, between business and belonging. They knew how to pause and laugh with their children, how to hold the hand of a spouse, how to share victories with friends, and how to build success that uplifted not only themselves, but also the people around them. Do not be deceived by the world's shallow definition of success. To win in life without love is to lose. To conquer industries without cultivating loyalty is to fail. True achievement is not measured only by your bank account or your reputation, but by the harmony of your relationships, the depth of your connections, and the warmth that fills your heart when the world grows quiet. For when the final chapter of your story is written, it will not be your business deals that people remember. It will be the love you gave, the lives you touched, and the loyalty you inspired. That is the true wealth. That is the empire no man can take from you. Mistake 7. Fearing change and risk. The greatest mistake of all is fear. The fear of risk, the fear of criticism, the fear of failure. Fear is the silent thief that robs more men and women of their destinies than poverty, lack of education, or even misfortune ever could. It disguises itself as caution, as practicality, as being realistic, but in truth, it is nothing more than a chain that binds you to mediocrity. I have seen men with brilliant ideas allow them to wither because they were too afraid of what others might say. I have seen women with talent and fire in their souls shrink back from opportunity because they doubted their worth. Fear whispers lies into your ear, and if you believe them, your greatness is buried before it is ever born. Criticism, do not fear it. Failure, do not avoid it. Risk, do not run from it. For these very things are the stepping stones to mastery. Every man and woman who has ever stood atop the mountain of success has endured the sting of failure, the laughter of doubters, and the weight of uncertainty. Most great people, I tell you, have attained their greatest triumphs just one step beyond their darkest defeats. The turning point of destiny often comes at the very moment when you feel most ready to surrender. That is the moment when the weak quit and the strong push forward into greatness. Think of Thomas Edison, who failed more than 1,000 times before perfecting the electric light. Had he surrendered to fear, the world might still be dark. Think of Abraham Lincoln, who lost election after election, who faced public humiliation and personal grief, and yet pressed on until he became one of the greatest leaders the world has ever known. Fear could have stopped them both, but it did not. They understood that failure is not final unless you accept it as such. And I tell you this, with every ounce of conviction I possess, the richest treasures of life are hidden behind the walls of fear. Beyond that wall lies your purpose, your wealth, your fulfillment, your destiny. But you must summon the courage to break through. Fear will always exist. It cannot be eradicated, but it can be mastered. When you act in spite of fear, when you use it as fuel instead of a prison, you become unstoppable. So if you're in your 30s or 40s and you feel paralyzed, if you find yourself hesitating at the threshold of change, remember this: fear is not your enemy unless you allow it to be. Failure is not the end. It is the test that precedes breakthrough. And criticism is not a curse. It is proof that you are daring to do what others are too timid to attempt. Step beyond your fear, and there, just one step away, you may discover the success you have been seeking all your life. My friends, these 7 mistakes are not destiny. They are choices. And choices can be unmade, habits can be rebuilt, and destinies can be reclaimed. The beauty of life is that no matter how far you may have wandered, no matter how long you may have drifted, you always have the power to turn back, to redirect your course, and to rise above your past. You are never bound to repeat yesterday's errors unless you choose to. Every mistake carries within it a seed of wisdom, a lesson that once learned becomes the very foundation of your success. The question is not whether you have failed, stumbled, or wasted time. It is whether you will rise, correct your path, and step into the future with greater clarity and determination. Remember this truth: your destiny is not written in stone, it is written in the daily decisions you make. And beginning today, you have the power to rewrite the story of your life. Turn your 30s and 40s into the decades of building wealth, influence, and happiness. Remember always, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. Guard your thoughts, guard your choices, and your future will reward you.